We are the Fashion Daddies.
Okay, Fashion Daddy Nick, there has been a lot of fashion going on.
Paris has been hot.
Paris has been hot. We had the Grammy Awards. We had Men's Fashion Week before Couture, right?
Yeah, we did.
It's been a lot of fashion.
Like first in Italy, and then Pitti Uomo, and all the men's were peacocking on the street, and I was getting some mood boards.
Yeah, for Men's Fashion Week, that is some of the most exciting moments to me. Is what's going on in the streets.
On the street, yeah. I mean, all those guys, and who are they? They're like sales guys. I mean, because Pitti Uomo is sort of the menswear showroom, wholesale trade market, and it goes from full on suits with the ties and the pocket scarf and the coat and the scarf, and then you also have like the guys who give you streetwear, casual, several trends. The tie is back, by the way, in menswear. And mixing and layering as well. The denim jacket, put it on with everything and under everything. Yeah, but the ties are back, even though we're not wearing any.
No.
But I will.
You love a tie.
I love a tie. All right, back to Paris.
Yes,
it's hot.
yes.
And when I say it's hot, I mean hot.
Yeah, ought. And I think out of all the fashion moments that we've had in the last few weeks, that's the one to talk about, right?
Paris.
Yes.
And Paris Haute Couture.
Yes.
Paris Haute Couture Week. It's always a week that I personally look forward to.
Of course.
More than ready to wear, because it's the lab. It's the lab for fashion. It's where the designers, at least the designers that get to show haute couture, get to experiment and be more creative. And there's a history there, a total history there on
well,
haute
it's
couture.
The creme de la creme of fashion, right?
Yes, of course. And to give a little background to those who need a little more information or want a refresher on haute couture. It means, technically it means high fashion or high sewing, actually. But first of all, it is estimated that only 1,000 women in the entire world are actual clients who pay to order haute couture. About a decade ago, I remember reading somewhere that it was 40,000. People were like, 40,000. But now it's about 1,000. That's the estimate. So basically, nobody actually buys haute couture when you think of how many women there are in the world and how many women with money.
Right.
A lot of now millionaires or billionaires or wives of that just want to wear very expensive Loro Piano cashmere sweat outfits.
Well, our world has changed,
right.
I mean, the accessibility of clothes, the accessibility of well-made clothes, as opposed to not well-made clothes. But if you are wealthy, there are so many options, and it takes somebody, I would think that it takes somebody that really, really loves fashion and understands. You need to understand
the difference between ready to wear and haute couture, and treat it as art, which I think when you talk to one of those rare 1,000 clients, women, and why they spend that much money for couture, it's they treat it as art, and we'll talk about that, of course. But so it's mostly handmade, made to order, bespoke. Back in the day, the socialites actually did get to buy. So we're talking the Lynn Wyatts, Helen de Rothschild, Nan Kempner, Estee Lauder, Betsy Bloomingdale, the Grace Kellys, the Audrey Hepburn, Sophia Lorenz. They actually bought.
They did?
Yes.
Wow.
They actually, in the 60s and the 50s, they actually bought. Some might have gotten a discount, and then they became very good friends, like Audrey Hepburn, with Hubert de Givenchy. A lot of times. Also the royals. So there's a history with the royals and dictator wives, which I love. So you have the Shah of Iran, the Empress Farah Diba, always wearing couture. You have the Papa Doc, Baby Doc, his wife, Michelle Duvalier of Haiti.
Oh, God.
She married in a haute couture Hubert de Givenchy wedding gown. So they ordered and bought. I know.
Yeah.
Tough times, let me tell you. But yeah, many of that old couture clientele is gone.
Yeah,
they're up in heaven.
Yeah.
They're up in heaven. And, they were replaced by the Saudi rich oil ladies and then the wives of the Chinese billionaires. But then COVID happened and wah, wah, wah.
So very few left.
Very few left, And on top of that, we were talking about ready-to-wear now can be extremely expensive.
Extremely expensive.
And so there's almost a reason, people would argue and say, well, why am I going to buy haute couture when I'm paying $18,000, $19,000, $20,000 for a dress from Valentino ready to wear?
Right. Because you have to really know. Right. And there's a lot of, obviously, service involved. Meaning they come to you. It's still a very service-oriented, business.
Well, for the price, and we'll talk a little bit about what haute couture costs if you for those 1,000 women. But you're buying. It's almost like when you. I'm going to put it to airplanes. When you spend $15,000 on a first class flight, you get the lounge, but not just the lounge. You get a special lounge. Then you get breeze through security, and then you actually get somebody who breezes you to the plane.
Right.
Then you get a Porsche.
Right.
Lufthansa does this, and Air France does this. You get a car service that takes you right to the damn plane.
Crazy.
And that's just to leave. The same thing happens when you then arrive. Okay. So it's all that extra service that you're paying for.
So you mentioned the price. So when because there are so few left that are purchasing, I would think that would be part of the reason the prices have gone up so exponentially.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, that and also the technical mastery and now what goes into creating these one-of-a-kind haute couture pieces. So the unique, the craftsmanship, because there's not that many craftsmen or women left. Right. So much so that top design houses like Chanel has bought them all.
Right.
And there's 10 or less, or I don't know how many, but they're like, no, we gotta keep them in here. Because they're just this art, this craft.
I mean the embroidery houses.
Correct. The houses that make the plumage, the feathers, the embroidery, the sequin work, glissage, all that work. That just costs money. You don't use those houses for ready to wear.
Right.
It's too muchy. So prices. Well, back in the day, and I got a quote from New York Times. In fact, you just gotta Google. You gotta keep Googling. You gotta be bored and have no life like me. 1981, I found an article from New York Times, and they were just quoting it as oh my God, right? Yeah. They're like, well, if you want to be part of that exclusive club in 1981 to buy couture, you have to fork over $5,000.
Wow.
For a simple dress or a suit or, that kind of thing. Yeah. $5,000 in 1981. So then I Googled, that would be the equivalent to about $18,000 now. Now, granted, in 1981, $5,000 was a lot.
Yeah.
But that's what the price was back in the day.
Yeah.
Now, $30,000 for a simple dress or a suit, $100,000 for a gown. We've talked about it, for a beaded gown, evening gown. Again, back in the day, it was probably about 20, 25 for a gown.
Which is now what designer ready-to-wear is.
Exactly. But yeah, so you could argue that haute couture wasn't that expensive.
Yeah.
Back in the day. But yeah, that's where we are at right now. But I also think that the craftsmanship, like I said, what is used in the fabrication of haute couture also has changed from the 70s to the 80s to now, as well as the clientele. We talked about how there was a clientele and there's only 1,000. Well, now, again, those design houses, they don't make the money there.
Right.
And they don't do couture for those clients anymore.
Right.
Who is it for, Daddy David?
Well, it's for the actresses on the red carpet, but really the reason it's for the actresses on the red carpet is, we've talked about previously, is it's because of marketing.
Yeah.
So these couture houses have now become the marketing arm of the overall brand.
Yeah, the couture fashion, the runway shows.
The runway shows.
Right.
So not just the clothes, because the clothes are, yes, worn by the actresses, but it's really the fashion show, the production of the fashion show, the streaming of the fashion show, the hits it gets on the internet and on social media. That is what is propping up couture.
Right. It's getting eyes.
Yeah.
It's getting press. But again, it used to be for Nan Kempner and the dictator wives, but no longer.
For the ladies in the front row.
For the ladies in the front row. But those ladies are gone.
Yeah.
And you still see ladies in the front row, but it's Kate Blanchett.
Yeah.
It's not. And
there are, I'm sure there are still clients that show up to the shows, but it is really for the actual show itself that is streamed out to the world.
Which is crazy.
To sell.
They spend probably about $1 million per show.
Right.
On fabric, on making the garments, on all of that. Like Schiaparelli, Dior, Chanel.
But what's it selling?
It's selling the brand.
And the perfumes.
And the perfume and the lipsticks.
And everything.
And everything else.
That is keeping these brands alive.
Yeah, afloat.
So, yeah. So it just, our point is that it serves.
We're giving a herstory of haute couture TED Talk right here.
We are. Its purpose has now changed, is basically what we're saying.
Yeah.
And while beautiful clothes are still produced, they are often produced for different reasons, which, as we'll talk about, gives you now different types of couture. Different, obviously every house has its style, and every designer and creative director brings a different style to the house. But now, as we saw with Matthieu Blazy's first collection for Chanel, so his first couture collection.
This was his debut.
Was really quite, people might call simple compared to many couture shows of today.
Because everybody else, if you look at most of the designers, I mean, you look at Robert Woon, Schiaparelli, you look at Elie Saab, I mean, there are like 100,000 sequins in a dress, in every dress. And this was like, the first look out from this new Chanel couture collection was a silk chiffon, just a little day outfit. A see-through day outfit in silk chiffon that you could wear if you want to go have go get a quiche and a croissant.
And we're not saying that there aren't striking silhouettes in this new Chanel, show, but there are also many more wearable, you should say,
quote unquote,
pieces. But when you look closely at them, there is so much detail which you would expect from couture. So he was inspired by birds and mushrooms. And like we said, he really wanted to follow Coco Chanel in the way she made clothes for women that go to work, they go to a play, they go to the cinema, or whatever. And it made it more relatable in many ways. But as you looked closely, like we said, the exquisite craftsmanship. And, in these birds and mushroom inspirations, you saw enamel magic forest creatures for the buttons. You saw fungi, mushroom fungi for the shoe heels.
Not real.
Sculpted. Many feathers that were, he was using real feathers, but he was also using materials and different sources to create the faux feathers, which actually was done done by Schiaparelli, but we'll talk about that later.
Silk thread.
Yeah.
To look like feathers.
It was all very gauzy, very sheer, lots of flue, loose shapes, and it was beautiful when you really paid attention. Now, I thought, because, okay, here's another thing.
Okay. All right. Do I need to, like, pull up a chair. I am in a chair.
Chanel, post Karl Lagerfeld, actually did do quite a few very wearable looks.
Yeah.
But what Matthieu has done is he's modernized it. So where you saw a parade of a lot of Chanel tweed suits.
Yeah, the boucle.
Boucle. Those shows were very heavy, I want to say. They seemed heavy. They seemed weighted.
Yeah.
There was a dated aspect to them, and I didn't feel that in this show.
No. I think they take a little bit of whimsy when then it's got the hand of Matthieu Blazy. There were still a lot of very square, and this was one of the critiques that you found online, on Reddit, on Twitter, X. A lot of boxy shapes, which Virginie Viard did before with Chanel. But it looked younger.
Well, and I was going to say about some of those boxy shapes, what he did was he made them in the finest organza. So
they were still light.
Yes. So you saw, like what I was referencing, how Virginie, it seemed heavy.
Right.
Where he made those boxy Chanel shapes, but in organza, which is like
the seaming. I mean, you got to find some pictures when you look up close in the seaming. It's beyond French seam.
Yeah.
I don't even know. I know there's a name. There's a couture, petite main, little hand name for how they joined the seams, but it was insane. Another insane look. Again, so simple. The model's just walking down, and it looks like she has a sheer t-shirt and sheer jeans. And then you realize, oh no, honey, Matthieu Blazy did these jeans in a silk chiffon, Georgette, and the fabric was like dyed to look like worn denim, and then there was like grommets and in the pockets, the hem. Look, we've got some photos. The hem of those silk couture quote unquote jeans with the gold stitching that you would find in these weren't jeans. That is what I love, and it's a shame because I'm sure you attend the fashion show, you don't see that. It's like that is why I almost long for, especially with shows like this one, to have the close-up salon shows, where you get to see the work. Sometimes, again, in the olden days, in the 70s and early 80s, couture didn't shout, and this was one of those instances where it was like, no, it's in the details, it's in the fabrication.
Well, now they do tend to set them up on mannequins,
right?
So you can go through and see the incredible workmanship. Well, another designer who had a debut in couture shows was Jonathan Anderson for Christian Dior. So that was another beautiful show.
Gorgeous.
And very modern. So tell us a little bit about what Dior looked like.
Well, his inspiration was cyclamen flowers. Basically, John Galliano, who was one of his predecessors, a very iconic predecessor who designed for Christian Dior, gave him, some cyclamen flowers when he got the role as the creative director. And so he was sort of inspired by those flowers. And when you saw the collection, you saw it on almost every model, had it right here as part of the hair style and what was on the hair, but it was also all on the runway show where there was just like drooping cyclamen suspended from the ceilings of the Musée Rodin.
Oh my gosh,
in Paris.
gorgeous.
Just gorgeous. And so sort of inspired by the flowers, and you saw these bulbous shaped, like flowers, like the root, and the ruching. And he moved away from corsetry. The dresses, the blouses, everything just looked like it was blooming, like it was in bloom. And I think what made it modern too, and I think that this is what makes designers like Jonathan Anderson, Matthieu Blazy, and stand out from their predecessors from the same houses, was it's new styling.
Yeah.
It's the layering that would be unconventional. It's the like, oh, I didn't think of that. And it's the way that they're styling these couture pieces, like throwing on this huge shawl, or this poncho, or this bag, and just styling it in a way that you could almost see like a young model walking down Paris in a really cheap version of this look. And I wouldn't be surprised if these designers, they're influenced by what the young folk are doing and styling, and that is really influencing the look of this haute couture, that it just looks fresh, it looks modern, and it just looks styled right. And I thought the collection was just styled right. And to be the opposite kind of Matthieu Blazy, Dior's collection was a little more like every look was a look.
Yeah.
This wasn't where like, okay, I could see her having a quiche with that. No. I mean, there were a lot of red carpet looks. There were a lot. These were looks. And in the fabrication, once again, you had to like look at the detail shots from Vogue.com or other, places where the fabrication, you think it's transparent organza with like a print, but no, that print is actual sequins that have been hand embroidered onto the organza, and then flower applique that's been hand done with hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of hours, into the skirt, into a simple blouse.
But it is interesting because, of course, Christian Dior is known for an era that had John Galliano as the designer.
Yeah.
And that is really where this over-the-top couture show
completely
peaked. It was at its height. And many people got to the point where they're like, okay, it's too much. It's gone too far.
I wonder when it was. Was it the Tutankhamun collection? Where
it was like that, the one when they arrived on the Orient Express.
Oh, yeah. Well, that was one of the early ones. That was one. Yeah, that was one of his first shows, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, that was nothing.
Wow.
Yeah, that was nothing. I mean, it was when they were later, like in the 2000s. I mean, those were just. Oh, remember the Madame Butterfly one?
Yes.
And of course, the infamous Clochard, the homeless collection.
Yes. Yeah. But the reason I bring it up is because I feel, in a way, I can see a thread between the way he was pushing Dior forward. I feel like this is bringing in a bit of the theatrics in a way, but in a modern way.
Right.
So like what you said, a lot of these pieces aren't particularly, they're certainly not day wear. They are pieces, right, and in many ways pieces of art. But they're not so over the top that somebody might say, "Oh, I can order this."
Right. That's true.
There's a little of both there. Yeah. So we'll see.
But it is getting attention. It is getting that marketing attention.
And yes,
it's got Dior has got a refresher. I'm sure the Maria Grazia clients are like, what happened?
Yeah.
But that's what happened. That's what happens.
Yeah.
And it's like moving on. Yeah. And I'm sure it'll influence ready to wear, which it always does. Even Galliano's quote unquote crazy couture collections influenced his ready to wear. And so we'll see.
We'll see. Well, what we spoke about a little bit or referenced slightly was Schiaparelli. And these are...
We loved, right? We loved.
Yeah, every collection is amazing. But these are truly not pieces that as Matthieu said, would be worn to the cinema or to lunch or in any way, shape, or form.
No, these are for Lady Gaga at the Grammys.
Yes, these are works of art.
Right.
So it is absolutely taking the other end of couture, which is the marketing arm, and the arm and the couture that, like you said, promotes this art form of the embroidery, the craftsmanship, the handwork. That is truly what he is pushing. I mean, obviously, Schiaparelli wants it to be a marketing tool too.
Right.
But you ask Daniel, and I'm sure he is saying he wants to embrace the artistry of couture.
And those Parisian technicians, you know, for sure.
And their talent. So.
And how lucky is he, I'm sure he pinches himself, to be working in a house that I don't know who owns Schiaparelli, but that has the funds for him to play and to use these crafts people to create these wondrous one of a kind creations.
It's amazing. Well, it had a dark and sort of sinister vibe to it.
It did.
I think you said Black Swan meets Scorpions meets horned animal couture. And he was inspired by a trip to Rome where he visited the Sistine Chapel. And he saw the contrast between the walls and the ceiling that really struck him. Of course, he was inspired by the fauna and Animalia, which is what Elsa Schiaparelli...
The lobster dress, Wallace Simpson. You know, she was always... Schiaparelli, not just Elsa, but, you know, the brand obviously was always a little bit surrealist. If that's a word. Surrealism. And you see that in the clothing. So he continues those house codes. But to a darker, more sinister.
Well, what was also interesting is that the accessories were inspired by the stolen jewelries of the Louvre, which isn't a happy-go-lucky thing to really be inspired by. I mean, of course, the jewels are gorgeous.
They're gorgeous.
But the fact that they were stolen from the Louvre is not a, you know, really happy thing. But that was very interesting. And there was one gown that just, you see it in, of course, like we said, these houses put out these amazing videos where you do get to see a lot of the craftsmanship. And this gown, which is a beautiful shades of blue that look like peacock feathers, to me, a strapless gown. And you think...
And the blues are ombre. There are all these different shades of turquoise and aquamarine, and they completely... It looked like a feathered ball gown.
You look at the dress and you think it's feathers, and it's not until you see these close-up images that you realize there are little groupings of silk thread tied together, little bundles. And there were 65,000 bundles
that somebody
put together, all organized in different colors to create that ombre effect.
How do I get that job?
Just amazing. And of course,
I want to be an intern for Daniel Roseberry and Schiaparelli.
All hand stitched. And it says it took, what is this here? 8,000 hours.
Oh, you had to put the glasses on.
I was like...
Daddy David was like, hold up.
8,000 hours to create that. Just stunning. And going along with the reptilian vibe, there was this gorgeous black wool crepe gown that looked like alligator skin, but then it had this white tulle cloud behind it that was also embroidered with this black silk thread
to look like mimosas, like little flowers. And I gotta tip my hat to the Schiaparelli people, because you go on their site immediately the day after the show, They describe every single look. Who is it? It's his sister?
Yeah, his sister.
Daniel Roseberry's sister, who like goes behind the scenes, and she really gives her brother the bouquet. She's like, just you wait.
Yeah.
You got to take a look at this dress.
Well, I'm sure she realized when she was invited to the shows and backstage, she goes, people need to see this. And she does an amazing job showing all that goes into them.
Yeah.
So there's so many. I mean, we could go on and on and on about all the different looks.
That lace, I think there was one look where it was this huge spiral lace, and it didn't look like lace, but it looked like a huge mantilla or fan. Let me just read that. It said it required 4,000 hours of work. There were some scorpions, like 2 models. He called them the Scorpion Sisters. They came out with huge scorpion tails, for lack of a better word, done in 3D.
Well, okay, so then another designer who is new to couture, Alessandro Michele, he's only on his second couture show.
He was with
collection.
Gucci, yes, and then he was hired for Valentino.
Yeah, they have changed their schedule at Valentino, or he has, to only do 1 couture collection a year. So his first one was January 2025. The second one is now January 2026.
That's kind of smart.
Yeah, it just so happened to coincide with the death of the actual Valentino himself.
Right.
And so I think people were excited but sad. He paid a wonderful tribute at the very beginning by playing a clip of The Last Emperor.
I love that documentary.
Which is an amazing documentary. If you haven't seen it, you better, you've got to see it. It's a really well done documentary, which was made basically when he was retiring.
Right.
And there was a clip about how his mother, you want to read it?
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, he remembers his falling in love with fashion magazines and just magazines altogether, cinema, and of course fashion. And he said he was dreaming about movie stars and everything beautiful in the world when he was a young boy. His mom kind of dissing him, and I could just see that Italian mama saying, "You are a dreamer. You always dream." Kind of, dissing him.
Yeah.
Like, stop dreaming and get to real, work. And that was it.
Yeah.
And that was all you heard was that voice. And then the show started.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, mamma mia. Yeah. It was, I mean, he didn't know that Mr. Valentino was going to pass away.
No.
And so it's like, imagine expecting an homage.
Yeah.
What if you didn't really do an homage, but then you saw the collection and it was an homage to Valentino's love of cinema and his love of just making women just look gorgeous.
Yeah. And Alessandro Michele has talked about his love of cinema, and that is basically his number one inspiration.
Hollywood. Yeah.
Yeah. He did it through looks from the 30s, 40s, 50s, all sorts, which is Alessandro Michele's thing. He mixes genres, he mixes styles.
He jumps decades.
Yeah.
But in a sort of seamless way where you see the 1930s bias cut dress, you can see a Greta Garbo or a Claudette Colbert in it, but then it's mixed in with an 80s coat or, a 90s silhouette. It's all in there. And that's what you saw in this collection.
So this will be very interesting because it is, again, couture that is not particularly, I won't say it's not wearable, but it is certainly not meant. I don't feel that the collection was designed with a client base in mind.
With a particular client.
Yeah.
I mean, it was the styling.
Yeah.
It was the side, but look, Daddy David, look, maybe look at some of the looks, because there was just a simple bias cut dress underneath, and yes, it was over a $200,000 gold sequined feathered coat. Okay, we can get rid of, we don't want to get rid of that.
Right.
But underneath, there was that dress.
Right.
For the so-called client, whether she exists or not. I think that there was some, there was, I think, a red skirt, a black belt, and this fan pleated draped top. To me, that was classic Valentino, if not Yves Saint Laurent, from like 1989, 1991. And that's during the time when haute couture was actually wearable. So to me, that was wearable. He did mix it in with a lot of like, hello, Cher, it's Bob Mackie calling. Yeah. I don't know. What's your argument?
I agree. I can see how somebody could find something in there to wear if they really needed to. But I'm not sold on this pairing.
Okay.
Valentino and Alessandro Michele.
Okay. For now.
I'm not. I'm not sure that this is the right match.
Okay.
I understand how there are similarities in the over-the-topness of the way they approach fashion. But we'll see, I guess, right?
Yeah. It's an interesting observation. I get it. No, I do get it. Now, what did you think of the way that the show happened? The design of it, let's just say the Kaiser panorama.
Yeah.
He installed these huge walls that then had little square windows, and each and every guest turned their chair to the windows to actually look at the show, the designs. And so a model would go to each and every, I don't know how many of these there were in this place. It was the tennis club in Paris, and that's how they got to see each model come in, and the model would leave through the windows. And it was this was something that was from the 1890s, and it was pre-films. Audiences would get to, I guess, view something, like a viewfinder, looking through it. What did you think of that?
You look at it, and it's a great idea. It was so impressive, and to see the model walk into the middle of this circular sort of stage area was so cool. My problem,
but I heard, I know, because we watched the show together. So yeah, I was setting it up. I was throwing the ball at you
for me to give yet another complaint about the Valentino show.
Go.
That they just the filming of the show drove me crazy. They would not stay on the model. I wanted them to have. Honestly, what would have been amazing to me is if they had a 360 camera where the camera circled around the model in that what do you call them?
Kaiser
panoramas.
You mean like E? Like how E does it?
Yes.
Like at the award shows? You want a body cam?
Well, they do theirs in slow motion. But this, to me, that would have shown what the people peeking through the windows were looking at from every angle.
Right.
And in that way, you could have seen the entire look.
Yeah.
But what they did was the camera zoomed in on the look and immediately cut away.
It went away. Yeah.
And I was like,
wait. What was that? What was that? No. Yeah.
And especially, like we said, with couture, where there's so much work. So much work so that they cut their schedule down from 2 shows a year
to one.
Right. So they would have enough time to work on these amazing pieces.
Yeah.
So I want to see them. And I just felt I couldn't see them.
Yeah.
And yes, you can go online, you can find it, you can go on Vogue.com and do the close-ups and all that, which is wonderful. But I'm there watching the show, and I want to see what they look like.
Yeah.
So that's the only thing that annoyed me.
Okay, well, I agree, because the whole entire time, while I did think it was like, oh oh, that's different. Oh, that's pretty cool. You know, because of course, all these designers, all these brands, they always, and especially if they hire somebody a producer, they got to think of something different.
Yeah.
And this was definitely something I think I don't think, and nobody has ever done it before.
No.
So it was the first time.
A great idea.
Yeah, it was a great idea. I just think that it just didn't work when you were looking at the actual show. So much, in fact, that I told Daddy David at the end of the show when I said, well, what'd you think of that? And then he said that. And I said, yeah, the whole entire time I was like, I sure hope that they at least end with all of them walking down the quote unquote runway, so I can at least see each and every damn look.
Yeah.
And yeah, it happened. So I literally had to put up with 15 minutes to just really watch the last 1 minute.
Yeah.
Which is all I wanted. I'm sorry, Kaiser Panorama. Cute idea, but yeah. But the clothes were I think there were a lot of just great pieces.
Yeah.
We'll see how he does.
Yeah. And it was a good week in general. I'm excited to see if any of these are worn for the Oscars. Now they don't even hardly do that.
I know.
Everything is custom. So I don't even know if we'll see a lot of these at the Oscars. Maybe a few. But
it'll be interesting. Usually now you just see them like at the Vanity Fair party.
Yeah.
That's when they get a little more creative, right?
Yeah.
But you're right. It's like now it's just custom. We call it custom couture. And the non-couture houses like Louis Vuitton and Gucci.
yes.
They're doing these custom dresses that have nothing to do with Louis Vuitton or Gucci.
Yeah.
A scandal, but hey, talk about marketing, right?
Yeah.
So then, why bother? I guess the real haute couture houses are like, well, what's the point? I want to see some of these.
Yeah. We're going to do another segment in a different podcast about an amazing couture auction, which kind of relates to what we've been talking about in wearable versus non-wearable.
And a real client
that bought this couture.
That bought this couture when there were real clients.
All right. Well, thanks for tuning in. Like, subscribe, and share. And
keep watching and listening to us, the Fashion Daddies.
Bye.
Bye. The Fashion Daddies is created and hosted by David Paul and Nick Varios. It's produced, edited, sound mixed, and scenic designed by David Paul. I'm just here to entertain.